Guys, let's start talking little bit about the history of rabies. The medical condition of rabies is something that most have heard of at least once in their lives. It has been around for a very long time. In fact, there are recordings from Aristotle concerning this disease. It is dated around 500 BC, so pretty long time ago, in which he wrote that dogs suffer from the madness. This causes them to become very irritable, and all animals they bite become diseased. Close quote. This goes to show how old this disease is and how it has influenced people throughout the ages. Not only do we hear about rabies in our educational lives, but our social lives as well. Perhaps the largest culprit of the spreading of the awareness of the disease comes from entertainment. A famous example, one of my personal favorites, was used in the 1950s in the classic movie Old Yeller. Surely, rabies becoming so familiar to people, there must have been years spent seeking to create a cure for rabies. Well, thanks to a man named Louis Pasteur, a vaccine was created. Louis Pasteur is no stranger to the medical world and has done much for the expansion of our understanding of microbiology. He is a chemist that after further study came to develop the first vaccine for rabies. It was first tested on animals and proved to be successful. However, at that point in time, it was unknown if it would be effective in humans. Well, the opportunity presented itself when a young boy by the name of Joseph Miser was mauled by a rabid dog. Yeesh. The boy was brought to Pasteur, and taking a leap of faith, Pasteur used the vaccine, hoping for a positive outcome. The vaccine proved to be a blessing to the young boy, and Pasteur later became a hero to the world as the vaccine used worked and led to further advancements in the medical world. So that's a little bit about the history of rabies. All right, etiology. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the etiology of rabies for a bit. As I'm sure you are aware, rabies is a virus. The rabies virus is from the genus Lyssavirus, and the species is rabies. It is a single-stranded RNA virus, which has an envelope. The virus is approximately 180 nanometers long and 75 nanometers wide, so pretty small. The envelope to this virus is covered with many projections called spike proteins. They're not really visible on the picture there, but they're really small projections that come out on the envelope. These are used for attaching to the host cells and begins the process of entering the cell for replication. Like all viruses, rabies is an obligate intracellular parasite, which means that it needs a host to reproduce. The virus lacks the resources to reproduce by itself and needs the assets a host offers to do the job. Rabies is zoonotic, which simply means that it is passed from animals to humans. How this goes about will be explained later in the presentation. The shape of the rabies virus is helical and is identified under a microscope by its unique bullet shape. As you can see in the picture there to the right, the rabies virus is relatively flat on one side and tapers to a soft point at the other, resembling the shape of a bullet. That's a little bit of the etiology there for you. Let's head over to the next slide here. So we have the reservoir here. So the reservoir for rabies is carried in a variety of wild mammals. These include canines, like foxes, skunks, raccoons, badgers, cats, and bats. According to our textbook, the main carrier of rabies is different depending on where you live, which is kind of cool, pretty unique. For some examples here, the raccoons are the predominant carrier of rabies in the East Coast of the United States, coyotes in Texas, and mainly skunks in California. So it's kind of cool, there's a variety there, depending on where you live. I spent some time seeking a reason why certain animals are more likely to carry the virus in certain areas, but I didn't find much. It's not really fully understood why at this time that only certain animals carry rabies in certain parts of the United States, of the world, really. But for those of you who are up in Rexburg, I looked up the main carrier for rabies, just for kicks and giggles for Idaho, and found it to be bats. So bats are the major rabies carriers in Idaho. So just thought you guys would want to know that. It's pretty cool.